Nexus PMG welcomes you to the Bigger Than Us podcast, which we as energy geeks lovingly refer to as the BTU. Bigger Than Us is a podcast that focuses on ideas that will shape the future of our planet and ultimately our existence. We will occasionally lean into energy topics because, after all, it's the key to our collective survival. But we'll also explore other ideas and topics that we believe will have an impact that is bigger than us. And now, on to today's show. Hello and welcome to the Bigger Than Us podcast. I'm your host, Raj Daniels, and today I'd like to welcome TJ Galiardi to the show. TJ is a former NHL forward playing with the Colorado Avalanche, San Jose Sharks, and Calgary Flames following his time at Dartmouth College. As a co-founder of Outcast Foods, TJ has quickly become one of the young leaders in food and agriculture with his unique look on sustainability. Additionally, TJ has been a guest lecturer on food waste at Rice University, a speaker at the Tuck School of Business, and an active angel investor and real estate developer for 10 years. TJ, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Raj. Thanks for having me on.
TJ, thank you for joining. TJ, before we dig into Outcast Foods, I want to ask you another question. How did you end up at a vegan restaurant in Siberia?
That's a question I've never been asked before, but I ended up playing in the KHL over in Russia, and I was vegan at the time, and obviously I still am now, but was trying to find something to eat out there. I didn't expect to find a vegan restaurant in the middle of Siberia, but was thankful when I found it.
So you were a professional athlete. You played here in the US at the NHL. You were playing there in the KHL. You know, there's this question that goes around and around, specifically around protein. So I'm going to let you share, how does a professional athlete survive on a vegan diet?
I think pretty much how any vegan survives on a diet, basically eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. I think the thing that people forget to say is that fruits and vegetables actually have protein in them as well. So, yeah, a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of legumes, nuts, seeds. So yeah, it takes a while to perfect it, but you find what works for you and you run with it.
You know, I heard something recently that I really liked. It's nobody ever asks cows or elephants how they survive or where they get their protein.
Yeah, I like that one. I won't say I was as strong as either of those two, but yeah, they do pretty well on plants.
So when you went vegan, it was in the middle of your career. What kind of commentary or maybe even perhaps feedback did you get from your teammates?
I think some of them thought I was crazy. It was still pretty early in the plant-based movement back then. So I think some guys didn't really understand what I was doing, but for the most part, there was curiosity. I would always find vegan restaurants or restaurants that had some really good vegan options when we were traveling on the road. And you know what? A lot of the time, guys would come and experiment with me and see how they felt. And I think it probably planted some seeds in some of them to make a shift further on in their careers or to become a little more plant based. And I still get messages from some of my ex teammates that say that I inspired them to make a change. So I'm pretty proud of that.
You know, it's amazing over the last few years how many professional athletes, you know, to name a few, maybe Serena Williams, most notably Tom Brady speaks very heavy about, you know, being vegetarian or mostly vegetarian. It's interesting to see the shift after all these years of, you know, essentially meat and potatoes. So I'm kind of hoping it continues. And staying on that topic of, you know, vegan and vegetarian, can you give the audience a background on Outcast Foods and your role at the organization?
Yeah, so I guess a little over 3.5 years ago, myself and another vegan, Dr. Darren Burke is his name, wanted to start a business together, and his history was in the supplement business. He had started a brand on his own from a $50,000 line of credit to $22 million in revenue in the fifth year, and had a successful exit. But so we wanted to find a way to get back into the fold of business together. And the thing that we kept coming back to was food waste. It seemed to be a massive problem that there were really no solutions for, or no one even working on solutions other than some very small niche brands and products. So we came up with this idea to partner with a lot of these companies and farms and food processors that were responsible for the waste. And I say that in as nice of way as I can, because once you learn about why they're wasting the fruits and vegetables and the products, it makes sense for them as a business. So we figured we'd partner with them, and we'd come up with our own dehydration technology to give these products a 2 to 3 year shelf life, and then find a home for them as either supplements or ingredients for other companies. So I think we thought it would be easier than it turned out to be. It was 3+ years of ongoing problems and headaches and things that needed to be fixed, especially when it comes to our technology and the regulatory piece around that. And anytime you say you're working with waste, I think people start to raise their eyebrows and try to figure out what's going on, because I think the picture that pops up in your mind is moldy fruits and vegetables. But the fact of the matter is, the product we're working with is in mint condition. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of Outcast.
It's interesting, our view of waste, because in nature there really is no waste.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's always something that these products can do for the world and the environment, but we're trying to capture that nutrient profile in an early enough stage where it can be used for human consumption still.
So obviously, without giving away any trade secrets, can you walk us through the life cycle of let's say, an imperfect fruit or vegetable, when you get it to when it becomes, a finished product?
Yeah, so let's say we get a truckload of bananas from our grocer partner that are too yellow. Those will show up at our facility. We will do an inspection immediately, and then we have a multi-stage process where the product is inbounded, it's inspected, it's washed, it's run through multiple steps of dehydration and multiple technologies, and then depending on what our customer wants, whether it's, let's say, banana chips, banana slices, whole banana, or banana powder, we finish it in that way for them to use in their final application.
I may not word this correctly, but what's the most popular, or what's the fruit or vegetable that goes to waste the most?
I think it depends on the region. You could think about whatever fruit or vegetable goes bad the fastest. That's typically what's going to be wasted the most. So leafy vegetables, leafy greens, those go to waste at a very high rate. Or on the fruit side, you could think about peaches, nectarines, a lot of the stone fruits, those go bad fast. So those get wasted a lot. But I think there's waste in really every stream. So we're just trying to find as many partners as we can that have that waste and find a way to upcycle it for them.
Well, you mentioned region. Where is your facility currently located?
Yeah, so we started with a proof of concept facility in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, which is in Atlantic, Canada. And we've expanded that space. I think we're on our 6th expansion right now, and it's being tripled, the footprint right now. And we're also in the process of building out a 46,000 square foot facility that's going to be in just outside of Toronto in Ontario. So we'll have 2 amazing facilities and servicing all of Canada and the US as far as our partners go.
Now, I know you've been selling via e-commerce, direct to consumer. Are you currently available, or is your product currently available in stores?
Yeah, we sell in plenty of retailers with our supplement brand. So that's mainly in Canada. We're about to launch in the US this summer, which is super exciting. We'll be in about 1,000 doors in the US. You'll have to follow our socials to see exactly where we're getting excited to release that info. But in Canada, we're pretty much everywhere across the country.
What's your personal favorite out of all of your products?
Well, you know what? We just came out with 3 new flavors of our protein product, and I think my favorite would be the mint chocolate chip. It's got such a refreshing flavor, and you can mix it with just water. That's how good it is.
I'll be sure to check it out when it hits the stores in the US. So you've been on the journey 3.5 years now, is that correct?
Yeah, November 2017 is when we officially launched.
What are some of the challenges along the way?
I don't know how long we have on this podcast, but I could go on forever. It's very capital intensive when you're dealing with the machinery that we're dealing with and the scale that we're dealing with. So it's extremely expensive. It took us probably the better part of 18 months to come up with our own unique technology. We had a lot of regulatory issues to deal with, like I alluded to earlier. When you're dealing with waste, it's a whole nother spectrum to work with the certifying bodies on. Logistics, if you can imagine having, over 2 dozen partners, figuring out what you need, when you need it, while simultaneously figuring out who you're selling the product to, when they need it by. It's there's a lot going on, and having a B2B side of the business, the ingredient side, as well as a retail side of the business, it's almost like having two companies at once. But we've kind of come into this space at a very important time, and being first to market as an upcycler has been a fun journey for us, and we're just kind of riding the wave right now.
So you played hockey for what, 15, 17 years, is that correct?
I mean, I started playing hockey when I was 4 years old. So I played till I was 29, 30 years old. So yeah, I played my whole life, but played professionally for just about 10 years.
10 years. What's the transition like from being a professional hockey player, professional athlete, to becoming an entrepreneur?
I mean, there's a lot of similarities. There's things that I've used from my playing career in business. I think most importantly, it's a resilience. It's kind of understanding that there's going to be highs and lows and trying to stay even keel. That's something that's definitely translated, because you can get caught up in business and think, you know what, this meeting right here is a make or break for us, or this presentation is going to be the biggest thing for us ever. But the reality is that there's most likely always going to be another one, and you just got to make sure you're as prepared as possible for everything, and put your best foot forward. So it's the transition's been good for me, because luckily enough, my co-founder Darren and I, we had a plan in place, and the timing of my retirement and the ending of his 5-year non-compete worked out perfectly, and we launched almost immediately after that.
Going back to your journey as vegan, what made you transition to becoming vegan?
I think there's a few things. Well, my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, was kind of one of those original vegans that no one knew what vegan even meant back then. So I think she started to just kind of tell me some little things about it, and I started to experiment and try different things in my diet to help my performance on the ice. And additionally, my mom's actually been vegetarian for 30 years, so I've definitely seen what can happen when you do it that way, and how healthy they both are. And I think I took it slowly, and then eventually I got to the point where the only thing I was eating that was animal based was chicken, and then I said enough's enough, and I'm just going to go all in.
And if you did, what kind of changes physically did you feel during the transition?
Yeah, I think most importantly, when I was playing hockey, I noticed that I recovered faster. And I think a big reason for that is I was sleeping better. I used to toss and turn in bed. It felt like hours before I would fall asleep. And it was pretty crazy that once I switched to a vegan lifestyle and diet, that the second my head hit the pillow, I was asleep. So I was sleeping more, and I think it's obvious, the more you sleep, the more you recover. So that was important for me, and I had more energy throughout the day. So yeah, that was number one.
Now, you mentioned your wife and you mentioned your mother. That final transition point for you, leaving the chicken, switching all the way over, what was that aha moment?
It's kind of funny, but I had ordered chicken schnitzel, and it was kind of gross. So that was the final straw, and I said, I'm done here. I'm going full vegan, and haven't looked back since.
Now, going back to the entrepreneurial journey, what are some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned about yourself on your journey?
I think that I'm more compassionate than I used to think I was. That's a big thing for me. Is that on the vegan side, of course, that you realize the impact it has on the animals, and then as far as the business side of what I've learned, I think that consumers are really starting to wake up to their impact on the environment and animals and everything else. So it's just being able to share my voice and show people firsthand what it's done for me.
So, do you do a lot of speaking around veganism or, I guess, cruelty towards animals, animal welfare?
I mean, I've done some. I haven't really been on stage with PETA or anything like that, but I'm always happy to talk about it. I don't ever want to be looked at as like a pushy vegan that's shaming people on what they eat, because I think end of the day it's your choice what you eat, but you should at least know what took place in order for you to get that food. So I'm always happy to talk about it, and I think it's important more than ever now, given the state of our climate change and the environment. So happy to talk about it at any time with really anyone.
Well, the voices definitely are getting louder. You mentioned, what people eat. What's some of the feedback you've received regarding your products?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's a tricky thing, plant-based protein, right? It takes a long time to perfect, and again, my co-founder Darren, he's a product formulator. He's been doing it for almost 20 years now, and he knows what people want. And I was probably his harshest critic. I would try the products, and it took us, I would say, almost 2 years to get our protein right. And now that we have it in a really good spot, consumers are loving it. We get messages from customers all the time just saying, I've been trying vegan proteins for 10 years, and I couldn't drink any of them until I found yours, and now I'll never switch. Your products are awesome. And then people send us new flavor ideas. We have the 5 right now, but we're always looking at new things and just want to keep everyone happy.
Where did you guys, or how did you guys decide on those 5 flavors?
I think it was trial and error. We tried probably, I'd say, 10 different flavors or more already that Darren has created, and just we would get anyone and everyone we knew to try them and give us feedback, and these 5 have been the top hits for everyone. And then obviously we talk with our retail partners as well and see what they're seeing from their customers and what they're looking for. And yeah, that's what we've come up with.
And I'm reading your bio on the Outcast Foods website, and it says he's into all things alternative, and while we don't quite know what this means, we're confident it's stellar.
Yeah. I'm definitely my own man. I've always done things kind of my way, and kind of love it or hate it. That's just how I am.
What are some of the alternative things you're into?
Well, I think anything that makes me feel better and healthier. So I'm a huge fan of kind of hot and cold therapy. I love saunas and cold tubs and cold plunges and stuff like that. So always into pushing my body to new limits and keeping it on its toes.
So, as an ex-professional athlete, what are some of the things you do to push your body to new limits?
I would say that the biggest thing that I've gotten into, and it kind of coincided with COVID hitting, has been tennis. I've been playing a ton of tennis, and anytime I have some spare time, I'm out on a court, and very passionate about that now. It's an amazing sport, and it's a very efficient workout, and allows me to be competitive and still have fun being outdoors.
Now, in Canada, I'm assuming tennis is, like you said, outdoors sometimes, but a lot of times it's indoors.
Yeah, it gets pretty cold up here, so you got to be able to play indoors as well. And tennis has come a long way in Canada, so there's courts everywhere, indoor and outdoor.
Now, I'm going to read a quote that I found while doing research, and it says, "You don't measure success by what you've done; you measure success by what you have left to do." Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think if you're living in the past and in the rear view, that's no way to live. So for me, obviously, I had a pretty interesting 10 years playing professional hockey, and kind of reached the pinnacle of the sport, in the sense of making it to the NHL. So that was always my dream growing up forever. And then, one day you get to the point and you realize the passion's gone for the sport, and you know what, you've gotten everything you could out of it, and you got to figure out something new and reinvent yourself. So for me, it's been transitioning into business, and now my goal is to really disrupt this notion that food can be wasted even though it's perfectly edible. So it's a constant evolution, and I'm really just trying to live in the present and make a difference now.
Well, speaking of new and reinventing, let's fast forward to 2030. If you were to see, and it's a two-part question here. One is, if Forbes or Business Week were to write a headline about Outcast Foods, what would it read? And then from a more broader macro perspective, specifically around food waste, what are some of the headlines or perhaps some of the changes you'd like to see?
That's a good question. I think in an ideal world, the headline would say, the Canadian company that ended food waste. I think that would be a really cool one. And then, yeah, I think it would just be about our impact on creating access to healthy ingredients for everyone. So, we obviously know that the population's growing very fast, and we need to figure out a way how to feed everyone. So this idea of putting fruits and vegetables or any type of food that can be eaten and putting it in a landfill, it's got to end. So I think that's our mission, and I actually, from the bottom of my heart, believe that we have the ability to completely end it.
I love the idea about a Canadian company that ended food waste, specifically around food waste. And you may not have exact data at your fingertips, but can you give the audience an idea of the magnitude of this issue around food waste? And let's talk Canada specifically if you don't have the US, numbers.
Yeah, well, recently I saw a number. It was over 1 billion tons of food goes to waste. So I don't even know how to wrap my head around how large of a number that is. But if you put it this way, our facility, our new almost 50,000 square foot facility, will process about 1.5 million pounds a month. So if you think about that, that is a massive number. But how big of a chunk that's going to take out of the food waste issue is so minuscule. It would be, 0.0000 something, right, of a percentage. So that just gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. And, it's going to take all hands on deck to turn this around. It's not just going to be Outcast Foods that does it. It's going to be other companies that have to kind of step up and partner with us, or the multinationals start buying their ingredients from us instead of, traditionally buying it from China, or just keeping the system going the way it is. It needs to be disrupted, and that's kind of what we're here to do.
I find it fascinating, and I'm just curious. I'm just thinking out loud here. How did we end up here to where we walk into a grocery store and all the fruits and vegetables are perfectly polished and clean? And it's such a U.S. Phenomenon, or such a Western phenomenon. I grew up in London. I remember going to the market and never really ever being concerned about how a fruit or a vegetable really looks.
Yeah, I think it's it's been a cascade that we've brought onto ourselves by expecting perfect. And I mean, you think about it, right? You go to Whole Foods or Kroger or wherever that grocery store is, and they have almost a display and a wall full of apples, for instance. And eventually, people are going to buy the ones that look amazing, and the ones that aren't perfect, they sit there on the shelf, and eventually they're culled off the shelf and they end up in a landfill. So we've brought this problem on ourselves, but we're all guilty of it, right? Like, I go to the grocery store still these days, and I'm picking through apples to find the best one. It's ridiculous, and I take a step back and I'm like, whoa, what am I doing here? But it's going to have to change. I would say at the pre-consumer level, that's what we're focused on. And then eventually the education will get down to the consumers, and people decide to make changes if they're ready.
You mentioned that you're working at the pre-consumer level, at the farm level. Do you know if there are any changes being made at the grocery store or distribution level?
I think it depends on who the grocer is. They're all trying to reduce their footprint and reduce their waste. Their customers are demanding it of them, so it's kind of forced their hand a little, and solutions are coming up, right? Like we're there for them, and we're an easy solution where we just plug into their current system, and instead of them sending it to a landfill, they send it to us. So there are ways that they can be a part of the movement, and we're getting calls all the time, and we're always open to working with new grocers.
It's interesting. I did mention that 2030 idea, but I'd like to see also by 2030, maybe this transition away from, and I think you mentioned the word education, education or perhaps re-education, that if you go into a store and the fruits and vegetables don't look perfect, they'll taste just fine.
Yeah. I think some grocers have tried that before, where they sell a section of the kind of misfit or ugly fruits and vegetables, but a couple that I know, it didn't work for them, because that problem still happened where people just were kind of bypassing that section. So it's going to take time, but eventually, I think everyone will get on board and realize that, that apple that is shiny versus the one that has a stem poke in it, they both taste the same.
And the shiny one might have more wax on it.
Yeah, most likely it does.
It's interesting. So staying on this idea of, re-education in the future, last question is, if you could share some advice, and you mentioned resilience earlier, which is one of my favorites, and also being compassionate, but if you could share some advice or words of wisdom with the audience, and it could be professional or personal, what would it be?
I would say take a step back and look at what you're buying. And if you really want to make an impact on the environment or the animals, just look at the brand and think, okay, are these guys doing anything out of the ordinary to help out with the environment? Let's say, are they buying sustainably sourced ingredients? Are they using compostable packaging? Just little things, because every dollar you spend, you're voting with it. So if you want to make an impact, the easiest way to do it is through your purchases. You don't have to go and flip your whole world upside down and become a completely zero waste individual, where I've seen some funny videos of people that they've wasted, it's like a 1 liter size garbage bag for the entire year. Just the effort that it would take to do that is just monumentous. So you can go out and you can support the brands that are doing their best to make a difference.
And I'm going to cheat here. I said it was my last question, but I do have one other question. In case there are any athletes, aspiring athletes, fitness fans listening, what can you perhaps share with them about, if they're considering on the fence about becoming a vegetarian or going vegan, what advice can you share with them?
Well, there's support out there for people that want to do that. There's websites that'll give you full diet plans or amazing recipes to make that transition, and just see how your body feels, right? It's pretty simple to do a little elimination diet where you take, let's say you take that chicken or turkey or whatever it is out of your diet for a week, and see if you've noticed any differences in the way you feel or the way you sleep or look or whatever it is, and decide if it's worth it for you. And look at this, like Novak Djokovic just won Roland Garros, and he's completely vegan. Like, he had some insane matches to get there. So there's plenty of inspiration out there.
I appreciate that. And also, don't forget, you can also reach out to Outcast Foods and order their products too.
Yeah, of course. outcastfoods.com. You can. That's the easiest way to make an impact and switch your diet a little.
Well, TJ, I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I look forward to the future of Outcast Foods and catching up with you again soon.
Likewise. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you, TJ. Thank you for listening. If you like our show, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. And you can show your support by sharing our show with a friend or reach out to us on social media, where you'll find us under our Nexus PMG handle. If there's a subject or topic you'd like to hear about, send me an email, btu@nexuspmg.com, or contact me via our website, nexuspmg.com. And while you're there, you can sign up for our monthly newsletter, where we share what we're reading and thinking about in the clean tech, green tech sectors. Bigger Than Us is a Nexus PMG production.